It's you can introduce yourself.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm Carnifax Dragonbait.
What's your YouTube channel?
Yep, I changed it to that.
Okay.
Did you?
That-
What did it used to be? Just your name?
Yeah, but then it was linked to my Google Gmail.
All right.
Yeah, I guess you don't want to have your name on there.
No.
Although you were calling me by my name in
First
the
names,
video
I think
last
we
night.
can be okay if you know, I'm okay with
Yeah.
that. Anyway, I just want to say, when I went into the theater to see this new Star Wars movie, I was really looking forward to, the classic, the feeling that you got the first time you're in the theater. You see Star Wars, or a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Then you see the Star Wars logo and the John Williams, music comes on.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe I missed out on something, but I didn't see anything. I saw this other stuff come up, and then there were these three
Those are called
three
previews,
three
dude.
CG aliens that looked like they were based off of chipmunks of some sort,
Okay. And
implying that I went to the wrong movie, but I didn't.
Oh, so you wanted the Chipmunks movie? Sorry, we're not reviewing that.
Was it good?
Yeah. Was it good? Anyway,
Yeah. So you're Tim and Selka.
Yep, I'm Tim.
Brian
Yeah.
And
yeah,
I'm-
I'm Brian.
Dexter, also known as Deku.
AKA the boss.
Not the boss anymore.
All right.
No one wants to be the boss.
No, it's too hard.
So okay.
Why don't you start?
Overall, I thought it was a very, very good movie, and I know that people on YouTube are just dying to hear random people talk about this movie.
Well, you watched it most recently of the three of us, and you've only seen it once.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right?
I really did like it a lot overall. There were a couple minor things that I think are both pros and cons. Like, I understand why they did it, and I'm glad that they did it, but story-wise...
You mentioned that a lot of pros are also cons for you?
Mhm.
Or, I don't know if a
And
lot.
a lot of cons are pros,
Yeah,
is what you said?
pretty much. The one thing, the biggest criticism that I do have, I'm going to just get that out of the way first, and that is the CG replacement Emperor guy.
Oh, Snoke.
What's that?
Snoke, right?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the evil CG Yoda.
Evil CG Yoda. It was a bit...
I mean, I'm assuming he's like 3 feet tall.
Either that, or he's trying to conceal something as the route
Right.
I'm hoping they're going
Yeah.
Correct.
with that.
Or compensate for something, one or the other.
Right. Well, So that was the only criticism. I know some people complained the fact that it seemed to parallel A New Hope too much, and I
Yeah.
kind of think it was their way. It was kind of their way of saying we're returning to what Star Wars was.
No, but they did that without having to make the same stupid plot. Like, you're in the Millennium Falcon, and you're on this thing that's sort of a Death Star-ish thing, and there's like that horrible torture chamber. That seemed very like old school, with all the like pointy, horrible things around your head.
That they never
in the
seem to
chair.
use. Yeah, it's always just decoration.
Yeah, that they never use. Yeah, that's true.
I think it's
But
a lot.
still, that
It's a lot.
stuff felt good and old school.
Right.
It didn't
Yeah.
feel like it was all CG.
Right. No,
So
that's
They
exactly
achieved
it.
their goal, but they didn't need to redo the plot also. I think that was a poor choice.
That's why I said it's kind of a pro and con. I think they felt they needed to do as much as they could to bring stuff back to, the way it used to be.
Right. I think that's the most common, I guess, high-level thing that when I read the reviews or watch other people's reviews of it, it's
I haven't read any or watched any yet, but there's a couple I want to.
yeah. They mention that. Well, if they're being negative about it, they'll mention that it mirrors A New Hope. But I was
Parallels.
thinking parallels A New Hope. Yeah, it's not mirroring. But I also
Or just straight up copies.
remember that when the Phantom Menace, I know you guys don't like to talk about that movie, came out,
Oh, I love talking about it.
people did also compare it to the Phantom Menace, or
Watch it.
to A New Hope, because like you've got the the big thing that they blew up at the end, and then there was a battle on the ground. I guess it's more like Return of the Jedi, that movie,
Mhm. Yeah.
and it's a lightsaber duel. So Do you think these movies are generally just
the same.
yeah,
Well,
are
this
kind
would
of
be like the whole plot. You know, you have
Yeah.
like a droid that's got the super secret stuff on
Yeah.
a desert planet, and they're
Mhm.
trying to save it from all the bad guys, and
Yeah.
then there's a big thing that has to get blown up and
Right,
space battles. I mean, it's the same plot.
A couple of the things that it seemed to lack. Now I'm very partial to what's the fighter pilot's name?
the guy from Ex Machina.
Poe. I almost said
right.
Bo. But that's because I, really enjoyed the flight sim games. But I also feel like, as far as storytelling goes, they introduce him a little bit. Renegade traitor stormtrooper guy helps him out, and then they think he's dead. And I don't know that you necessarily really got a chance to get too attached to him right away to have that scene as impactful as it should have been.
Which
Right.
scene?
When
When
the
when
sand
he-
swallows, when they think he's
Oh.
dead, and the sand swallows up the.
Oh, yeah.
I guess it's well, they don't have a lot of time to develop all the relationships, but it
Well,
seems kind of
that's-
fast. You're right.
That's because people rush stuff into it in movies these days. I'm gonna get a lot of hatred on our.
Look, there's a lot of bad movies out there.
There are, and
I mean,
again, I really like.
criticism should be made of many movies.
Yes, every good movie has a lot of bad stuff.
Right. So is the too close to A New Hope thing your pros equals your con?
Yeah, it's like
One
I
of yours.
understand why they did it. It's not how
Yeah.
I would have done it.
Right.
The other one was the he did really well creating certain locations
Yeah.
and things that I would have really liked to have seen. I mean, I know we got a couple more movies, so we don't know what's going to happen. Blah 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 blah.
Right.
But seeing the stuff that wasn't that we hadn't seen before. Some of the places, the planet that was the capital of the New Republic, I guess, or whatever.
Hosnian Prime.
Yeah, you see it just long enough for it to get blown up. And,
I think a lot of people confuse that with Coruscant.
which it wasn't, because they said it in the movie. Yeah.
Correct, but it's not
Yeah,
clear enough.
when I watched it, it wasn't clear enough.
Yeah.
I thought it might have been Coruscant.
I thought it was because that's in the books, but
Right.
the door is sealed. What did I do wrong? But he did a really good job creating a lot of these locations, and then they get destroyed right away. And it's like, wait a minute, I wasn't done with that place yet.
Right.
I mean,
and
if there's any place they should have destroyed, it was the stupid sand planet, Jakko, right? Because it's just Tatooine too. I mean, seriously.
There's already a tattoo. Yeah.
I assume there's
Some
probably
more originality.
but I assume there's probably more desert planets out there. More than two, at least, right?
Yeah.
Just so
there's a
happens.
couple.
I guess there's yeah.
At least
they didn't actually go back to Tatooine. That would have been
that
Yeah.
would have been bad, and at least they didn't give it a name that would be like, oh, we're gonna have a sand planet, but it's not gonna be called Tatooine. We're gonna call it Blabluine.
Dantooine?
Look, I was gonna say Dantooine, yeah.
They're on Dantooine. One of my favorite. Neither of you played Knights of the Old Republic, right?
No,
No.
but I've heard a lot of good things about
There
it.
was a section in there. One of the best dialogue choices I remember in a game was they were trying to find. That was when Dantooine was actually a planet, a base and all this stuff, and they were trying to find. They were interrogating you for the location of the base, and you could tell them that was on Dantooine. But one of the choices that it gave you was Alderaan. They're on Alderaan.
So you can save Alderaan
By blowing it up?
There you go.
by telling them that it's on Alderaan.
Oh, because then they'll say it's too remote to go right now. We'll blow up Dantooine first.
Yeah, exactly.
One other thing that felt good in a retro way was the way some of the lightsaber fights, I thought, went.
Yeah.
As flashy and awesome as Qui-Gon versus Darth Maul is,
Yeah.
after a while, watching it enough times, it feels really choreographed and
Yeah.
just not... these felt like, you were watching Obi-Wan versus Darth Vader.
Yeah, it's a little raw. I'm sure it's choreographed, but it doesn't feel like it's choreographed. That's the difference.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It was good because I mean, both the people, like especially when you had Finn fighting,
Yeah.
Mhm.
like he doesn't know what he's doing.
This is
Right.
first
And
time with a
even-
lightsaber.
Yeah, and even Kylo Ren, like he's not a very good like Sith guy or
Yeah.
whatever he is. Like
I don't think he's even a Sith
so
yet.
it's
Yeah, he's like just like an apprentice dark side
an
person.
apprentice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that fight comes off well. It doesn't feel at all choreographed. They're just like bashing at each other as hard as
Right.
they can swing.
Yeah.
They're,
Yeah.
Yep, they're doing it. They're just
Like how
doing what
you-
comes natural to them because they don't have that mastery of the Force. They don't have
Mhm.
And
the
who
training.
uses like a sword or anything? Like you'd have no real life experience of anything like that.
Mhm.
Right.
So that was something I very much appreciated. And the looks of the ships, going back to, again, that retro original series look to the interiors. You know, it's not all shiny and chrome and CG. You feel like there's something actually there.
Right. Although one thing I want to say is they got all the interiors right except for the freighter. For me, that scene looked like it's ripped out of some generic sci-fi movie.
Han Solo's
that's-
freighter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that scene as a whole actually felt like a diversion from the plot.
Correct.
When the people come to Han to collect the money, it felt like
felt a little forced.
because the Force Awakens.
It does do its job developing a few plot points and kind of filling in what Han's been doing for
Mhm,
for the
but-
last 30 years, or maybe not 30, but some of those years, which is he's not with Leia anymore, and he's been just back to his old tricks, swindling people and smuggling.
Lying.
Lying, yeah, being a scoundrel.
Oh, he's the
Right.
best. He's a scoundrel, yeah.
So yeah, I mean yeah, but I think it's just the design of it was like, why did he have to use that? I mean,
Mhm. It felt
doesn't
like
work.
something you could see in any other sci-fi movie.
right? It's very generic, right? Like the grates and then the lights.
Just like a grid.
It
Yeah.
felt very like I mean, it felt like you'd be watching Aliens or something.
right. Or even like a TV movie of the week or a TV show set in
Yeah.
space. That's the kind of spaceship they would use. If they
Mhm.
want to go gritty, is just have a bunch of like grates with lights shining through it to make it look like it's grungy
Mhm.
and dark, right? Yeah, but that's my thing. I think the design as a whole of that ship also wasn't that interesting. It looks like a giant Pac-Man and doesn't belong in Star Wars.
Since when does Pac-Man not belong in Star Wars?
Ooh, he's got a good point.
Actually, that would be pretty funny to see them on the
Right.
council at Coruscant in the prequels.
Oh, okay. Since we started talking about Han, what do you guys think of Han's character in the movie?
Let me think about that a moment. I thought he did a better job of returning to Han than he did to Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull.
Right. Yeah.
Luckily, I haven't seen that movie, so
You
I
should
can't agree with
watch
you.
it on Riff Tracks. I thought I liked it.
Yeah. He seems to have. Yeah, he's really good. For the most part, I think he.
There
He
were a
is
couple.
one.
Yeah, there were a couple moments that just felt a little too unrealistic, particularly when they were trying to interject humor. A lot of the jokes I think worked well for me, but there were certain ones that just
Most of
felt.
it, yeah.
Yeah, there were some that just seemed a bit over the top, and a couple times with Han, I think when it was like he would just fire blindly behind him or something, you know.
Oh, yeah.
that was. Oh, yeah. I mean,
And it's like
that's
no,
not how the Force works.
and he's not. He doesn't have the Force.
Right.
That's what I'm
What-
saying.
Hey,
He doesn't
What
have
do
it,
you-
so he can't use it.
What do you think of the whole running gag with him and Chewbacca and his weapon?
That didn't bother me too much actually.
Okay.
I thought it seemed like kind of hard to believe that
he
he
hadn't
never
used it?
used his cross.
That was the
before, ever.
yeah.
But other than that, I kind of did like it.
So what I was thinking, and this is just me thinking too much probably, is do you think Chewbacca upgraded his weapon in the last 30 years or so? Because he never seems to blow people up when he used
Or
that.
push
It was
them back.
Throw
yeah, like
I
it was
noticed
just
that with a couple of the blaster effects that stormtroopers seem to fly back suddenly, whereas in the
Yeah.
other movies they never really did.
well with Chewie's weapon in particular, the bowcaster, or I think that's what they call it. They specifically show that every time someone's hit by it, it explodes.
Well, yeah, that's what happens
Or-
when you aim it at someone and you use the right click into the
Right.
secondary fire.
But you know,
There's
Just in
restrictions on it.
the Dark Forces and Jedi Knight games, yeah.
I looked into it. Apparently, it's not even a blaster that the thing he uses. It's apparently some kind of a range weapon that shoots like a plasma or some kind of blaster bolt.
Type thing,
Yeah, it's like it shoots a projectile with a blaster thing around it, like a energy field.
Yeah.
So that's why it explodes. But
Cool.
Now, okay,
But
just
it didn't do that before. In the
but
old-
correct,
in the old
so-
one.
and being,
is it-
just talking about
Yeah.
technology and progression and stuff and kind of
Yeah.
being a nerd over analyzing it, I could see, you get attached to the weapon that you've had.
right,
You want to keep it, and new stuff comes out, so you upgrade it as you go along.
right.
Yeah, or the jacket that you wear.
It's a different jacket.
Yeah, it seems like a very meta commentary, right? That Leia says same jacket and Han says.
I actually really appreciated that
New,
because
yeah.
when I first saw that, Han was looking the same way he did, it's like, come on, you don't have a change of clothes in how
Yeah,
many years?
I think they
That's-
anticipated that some people would mention that. Like, it looks like he didn't have a change of clothes for 30 years. So they
Now,
worked
I
out
don't want to be unkind,
to
but
Leia.
since you brought Princess Leia in,
Oh no!
no!
I know, I
This is-
feel-
oh,
I feel
what,
bad.
watch
si-
what you say.
I do.
Go on.
It was just very jarring hearing her voice.
Yeah, but I've kind of known that for a long time.
I
That
did.
her voice changed since
I did.
Return of the Jedi.
But you should really. I think no one should be hard on her because, from what I understand, like they kind of forced her to lose a bunch of weight. in
No,
order
no,
to
I'm
make
not.
this
I'm not
movie.
being hard on
Yeah.
her. I'm just saying that
And
really.
so,
I'm not
like,
being. I'm not saying anything
poor
against her.
lady.
I'm just saying it shocked me
Yeah.
was
because I hadn't heard her
right.
since the '80s.
No, I don't really have any problems with Leia, but she didn't really do that much in the movie. It's kind of a nice touch point, I suppose, that
Mhm.
links back to the original trilogy. But
Yeah, I mean, really, kind of Han was one of the stars of the movie.
Which I really liked.
correct.
Yeah.
Why am I not moving? I can't be cure locked. What's going on?
No, I don't know what we're talking about.
This isn't cool. I can't move. Okay, then now I can. Okay. Sorry.
If you're wondering what that is, he's playing a game called
You're
Final
playing the
Fantasy
same
11. Yes, I'm in a game too.
Anyway, another thing too about when you have weapons that can destroy whole planets,
Hmm.
putting all your eggs in one basket and keeping all your important people on the same planet seems like a very bad idea. Kind of like how the
We don't know that all the important people are there. Those are just the important people that were there.
Well, the
also the other
hologram
thing,
guy wasn't there, right?
well, the other
He's
thing
just
that I was
a
kind of
hologram.
wondering too was, the reason you can kind of make the statement that they didn't
Smeagol.
evacuate Yavin in the first movie was because the Death Star was there and could have shot down any ship that's
Right.
evacuating. Well, what the heck are they doing sitting in that command room while the weapons charging to blow up that planet? Why not just get out of there while and hope the fighters are able to do their job?
I feel like you maybe don't want to actually sit on the world itself that can blow up planets.
And I mean,
No.
just in terms of the
To be
timeline,
remote controlled in some way.
Mm-hmm.
it didn't feel like there was a lot of time. Like as soon as Finn and Han get to the Rebel base or the Resistance base, I don't really like that name, but Resistance base.
Mhm.
They already knew about the weapon, and then the next couple of scenes is the recon, and then they're charging the weapon. So maybe a couple hours in between.
That's
Can
still-
you even evacuate in that?
Well,
Okay.
if you don't have a planetary evacuation plan for your top brass, that's kind of bad planning.
Right. Although this is kind of not part of the movie because I read more into
keep
it.
Keep in mind, I am just trying to be overly nitpicky on some of these things.
No,
for
no,
effect.
it's actually an interesting thing to think about. But I read more into it because they didn't really discuss the politics of the galaxy
Mm-hmm.
in
I
the
thought
movie.
that was an oversight on their part, and
I
I was
think
a bit confused.
They are trying to intentionally avoid the prequels, which
Okay.
went into the politics way too much. But
Well, the problem is in this you do still have the politics, and
right.
even in A New Hope you get the feel there's
the
this
Tarkin's
Yeah.
speech was just cold. Like you don't have to worry about the Senate anymore because
the regional governors, and fear will keep the systems
Yeah.
in line.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I think it's pretty well established there. But here, you know that stuff existed. You know that the Empire has fallen and
Right.
the rebels won. But like, why is why is Leia in charge of the resistance if the rebels won? Like,
so
Yeah,
apparently
what-
there's
who are
a
they
scene,
resisting?
confusing.
Who are
It's
they
not-
resisting? What's going on?
there's
Yeah.
a scene that was cut. I found this out later that basically, in that scene where they were blowing up all the planets and there's a close up of like a bunch of aliens looking on as this bright white or red light was about to blow up their planet. So apparently there's a cut scene before that where Leia sends a messenger to the Senate to ask them for help. And apparently that would fill in some gaps about...
Oh, that would have made much
so that's
more
where
sense.
The Senate was. Is
Correct.
What we should have known.
That would have actually been very helpful to have.
Correct.
I mean, all we know. I mean, we still know that a bunch of people, got murdered.
I think they got the point across that they
Still.
blew up the government and the Republic government is no more. But yeah, I mean it's what was it going on about? Oh yeah.
But what's the relation then between, if there's a republic, why do they need a resistance now?
That's because I was gonna go. Yeah, now I remember. So I looked into this more, and the whole premise of the new trilogy, or not new trilogy, but the new world order, I suppose, is after the rebels won, there was a disarmament treaty with the rebellion or the new republic and the empire. So the empire wasn't destroyed; they were just simply disarmed. And the republic also kept a fleet, it was mentioned in the movie, to kind of police. So they basically made sure they had the largest fleet through the treaties. And but they
Marvin's not
didn't...
curing me, and I'm gonna die.
I'm sorry. But so they had a fleet, and
Damage gauge.
He has damage gauge.
was...
I'm on the gears. Oh, this is bad. Come on, Marvin, you little dip.
I lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
But they had the fleet, but they weren't really arming anymore. So they basically assumed no one else was. So the First Order is a breakaway, or there's element in the Empire that was basically breaking the treaty. So the ships that you see in the movie and the weapon itself is basically classified secret information. So they weren't, unlike the Death Star, they weren't really going around advertising and telling people that they were they were going to destroy them. It's kind of a surprise attack. Like if you were to wake up tomorrow and some city got nuked from some country that you never heard about, or you knew about but you didn't really think they would have nuclear weapons. I suppose it would be similar to that, because the whole point of the base was apparently it's not known. It's secret. And that apparently also makes sense if you watch the first part of the movie when Poe gets taken on board the Star Destroyer and he's like looking around. Like you see him like looking around and squinting his eyes. Because apparently the context of that is he's surprised that they actually even have a Star Destroyer of that size. Because the Empire wasn't supposed to have any more fleets of that size. So I guess that's a context.
There should have been a way to establish that.
Right, but I don't know how they would do that. But that's kind of
Maybe
the background.
there's like a half hour of scenes that we'll get to see in the DVD or something.
That'd be pretty
Or
cool.
when they do like a special edition or extended cut release or something.
Oh yeah, and they could put a bunch more extra CG in there. Oh, that'll be great.
A dance sequence and
They add shockwaves to all the explosions.
Han Solo talking to Jabba the Hutt again.
And then they edit out all of the guns and put walkie-talkies in.
Although actually, we're joking about
Is that
this.
for the TV version?
Not ET.
We're joking about this, but people are seriously thinking that they might do a special cut, even if it's just to goose the box office numbers. Because
Yeah, I mean they'll probably get our money. Let's be fair.
it's looking like the Star Wars might be the biggest movie ever. By
Really?
dollar amount, yeah. it's gonna pass Titanic today, as of today. So by Monday or Tuesday next week, it's gonna pass Avatar in terms of money made. So yeah, it's
I like
quite
it
a
better than I liked Avatar.
yeah. Well, I did go.
What a stretch.
I wanted to see Avatar twice.
Talk about a bad plot.
But
It's not necessarily a bad movie, but it did have a bad plot. Anyways, I'm off topic.
yeah. So anyways, yeah, that's kind of where the background is for all of that
So,
stuff.
speaking of background, there was a novel that came out that I believe is like canon that is a filler that takes place in between
Before the Awakening
6 and 7.
or the
probably
Lost
Shadows
Bars.
of the Empire.
There-
No,
yeah.
Shadow of the Empire happened in between, like,
No, those are
5
not
and
canon
6,
anymore.
I
Yeah.
think.
Oh,
Yeah, also
sorry,
that.
sorry.
Yeah.
Well, again, my ones that I really enjoyed were the Thrawn trilogy, and there's a lot of stuff. There's room where the major plot points could happen again, but not everything could happen again.
Right.
Because the New Republic, was led by,
And it happened
Leia-
5 years after the
yeah,
Empire.
and Leia was
collapsed.
on the council, and she and Han were married, and they had twins, and all of that stuff. I mean,
Maybe they still had twins.
I know, right, but
Who
they,
knows? We don't know
they
yet.
named them differently.
Yeah.
So, but there's a lot of other stuff in there that could happen as
Oh, what did they name them in?
Jason and Jaina.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been so many years since I read those.
I
Yeah.
actually, because I enjoyed the Star Wars movie so much, I started rereading it last week.
Oh. Yeah, I
Not
still
a
have.
bad idea.
I still have my original paperback, but the
Same.
paper are all yellow now.
Oh, yep, same, and they smell funny, like an old person's
Oh.
bookshelf. Like you go into an antique bookstore, you know how the
Yeah.
books
It's a
just...
good
Yeah.
smell.
Yeah, that's how it smells.
That's how my records smell too. They're nice.
I wonder if you can
Because
get that.
they're in those paper sleeves and
Yeah.
stuff.
I wonder if you can get a
So
cologne
record shops
scent.
smell like bookshops.
Correct.
Old book cologne scent.
Oh, where were we?
Okay,
We're talking
weird.
Sorry.
Yeah.
We're talking if there was that
Books.
book that was supposedly canon.
There's a couple.
Yeah, I haven't read it. I have
Yeah.
a friend who did, but I couldn't tell you what's in it.
It's lost something. I remember there's one that basically talks about the Empire after Return of the Jedi, all the way up to the start of the movie. And then there's another one called Before the Awakening, I think, which
Okay.
just kind of fills in the characters before, before the movie started. But since you guys talked about Shadows of the Empire, I also read that the movie was supposed to be called Shadow of the Empire at one point.
Oh, but that would be too close. Oh, okay.
Too close, yeah. So
Oh, weird. I would have been very confused if they'd done that.
yeah, that's probably why they didn't do it.
Interesting. That's some good knowledge.
Oh, it's like, well, okay. So this reminds me of a really good article that I read. Probably I saw it on Facebook or something, but where this guy was making a comparison between the new Star Wars movie and what J.R. Tolkien would have done if he had made a sequel to The Lord of the Rings, and how it would have been called. I think it was called The New Shadow. I read, what he had written of it, and he basically came to the conclusion that, like, oh yeah, you could write, another book that happens after this, and it would be, an intriguing thriller, but there wouldn't be anything really interesting to say. It's like, yeah, okay, people are still evil. They still,
Right. Very good point.
there's no like really good truth that you can get out of it. So it'll be interesting to see what they do in the next Star Wars movies, to see if there's any,
Correct. And yeah, I don't know who's there. Oh no, Ryan Johnson is directing the next
Who's
movie.
he?
He did a couple of Breaking Bad episodes, including Ozymandias, which is one of my favorite episodes.
I don't know the episode names.
Yeah.
I've never seen it, but I will see it eventually.
A stranger from before.
Yeah. So, how would you grade the movie then overall?
I would probably give it 10 out of 14 stars.
As a percentage, what would that be?
What's 10 divided by 14? No, I would give it a
It's a 71.
I'd give it a B or a B plus.
So that's like a C.
I'd put it in the upper. Okay, all right, let me give it my linen coin purse rating. No, I really liked it. I can't wait to see it again.
You should definitely see it a second time.
It was great. It reopened a lot of the fond feelings that I had for Star Wars, especially with the video games that I spent most of my high school years playing. You know, the TIE Fighter, X-Wing, Dark Forces. It really captured a lot of the moments I felt with that. It still didn't quite capture. There's just something about the original trilogy that is so much more.
Right.
And that's the only reason why I wouldn't give it, 100%.
Yeah, but I think you can only have that feeling once. That wonder.
Possibly.
I mean,
there's things they could have done to recapture it.
Yeah.
I was still excited, kind of like you were talking about earlier, just to sit down when the music comes on and it says Star Wars, and that was just still exciting.
And you knew that it wasn't going to
what
be
it
any
was.
worse than what you'd already seen in the prequels. I hate to say it, but you knew it could only go up from there.
Okay. So what would be your score, Selka?
Maybe an 8 out of 10, I guess. Obviously, I've nitpicked some things that I think are important, but overall, I mean, I liked the characters and the music, even though I know you're not a huge fan of the music, but especially seeing it a second time,
yeah,
I think you'll appreciate the music a lot
Actually,
better.
it was just because there wasn't much that stuck out at me like a lot of the themes you get from the other movies. But on that topic, I thought that they were very smart in the scene where Han and Han Jr. are confronting each other, that there was just silence for that, letting the conversation carry it.
Oh, Kylo Ren, yeah. So did you like him as the villain?
I did.
Yeah. It's
especially the whole thing where it seems to imply or state that, he's trying to live up to his grandfather's shadow, Vader.
Yeah.
That was a very interesting dynamic.
So I guess one way you can see it is he's a Luke Skywalker in reverse, because Luke is fighting off darkness for most of the original trilogy. He is fighting off the light.
And he's trying to be like as awesome as his father was.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
A great pilot, a Jedi.
Yeah, not knowing,
Right.
It's like both of them were looking at different aspects of him to be that person, and that's not completely who that person was. There's still that other side of him.
I had the same thought at the same time. Yeah, it's interesting.
So I guess it's up to the next director to kind of take these ideas and really...
Yeah, they need to. I think, the next one needs to answer some of the questions they raised in this movie for sure. Like, I guess we haven't gotten to the other main character yet, is who's Rey's parentage or what.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Go on.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, I hope that she's not like just someone's sister, or I don't know. I feel like
you feel the Luke Leia connection would be a little too much of a cop out.
It's like, well, not only that, but I feel like it's the same way. It's kind of a weird thing to say, but like in our politics, why do we have to watch another Bush v. Clinton? Like, isn't there anyone else out there who can like be good at the Force or whatever? Like, come on.
It could be Trump v. Clinton. Who knows?
Yeah, so maybe she's the new Trump. I don't know.
Oh, here's a theory though I've heard. Sorry, Karn. They were talking about accent. So she had Finn.
Oh,
he's British, right? But they made him do an American accent. But the Rey, she's British also, but they kept her accent. And people are saying it might be a signal that she's related to Obi-Wan, who also has a British accent.
If you look at it, the first scene with Princess Leia in the first movie, she does try to sound kind of regally Britishy.
Correct. And actually, there was an interview where she said every time she gets upset, she does the British accent because I guess at the time she was studying in the UK.
Really?
So the whole thing with Tarkin, when like I smell your foul stench when I was brought on board.
star systems will slip through your
Yeah, like she was really upset. She was playing super upset, and that's why
That
the whole
worked
thing.
really well.
Huh.
That was awesome.
Interesting.
So yeah, and they also point out, going back to the movie now, is when there's the flashback sequence, right, where she touches Luke's lightsaber, and you can actually hear Obi-Wan saying Rey, calling out to her.
Really?
Yes.
I don't recall that.
Yeah, I mentioned that like when you go to see it the second time, Brian, you should listen to the. Yeah, it's very quick, but I didn't catch it until my second viewing. Was that Obi-Wan actually, you can hear Obi-Wan talking, and they actually.
Is it Obi-Wan or is it Luke?
Obi-Wan.
Oh.
It's confirmed. So they took Obi-Wan, Alec Guinness saying "afraid" in I think one of the movies, and they cut it down to Rey because it sounded like Rey when you truncate it, the word. And
so they did like they did with the Sand People, where they filmed him like raising his stick once, and then they replayed it 2 or 3 times.
Right, but just for the part Rey. But he says these are your first steps. So the following stuff, they actually got Ewan McGregor to say those lines. Right. So anyways, they're saying.
Oh, sorry.
They're saying she might be related to Obi-Wan. Who knows? Yeah.
Interesting. The other thing I was going to say is I really hope they don't talk about midi-chlorians. I'll be so mad.
No.
Actually, that was one thing that I noticed on this. They went back to the more mystical aspect of the Force.
Yeah,
Right.
And that
was
was
good.
something that was
That
really
helped a
well
lot.
done.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's about the light is calling to you or something like that, and it's not about your genetics is calling to you, which is more or less the same thing, but it's not as glamorous.
Your symbiotic bacteria is calling to you.
Oh
Wow.
God, I forgot the whole symbiosis thing.
That's pretty funny, actually.
Yeah. Okay, this is obviously not a serious theory, but another theory is Rey is actually Luke's sister. But hear me out here. The theory, I just read this
Did you say
today.
Luke's sister?
Luke's sister. And Leia was never Luke's sister, but Obi-Wan just kind of played along. And the reasoning for this is Rey, that scene where she got left on the planet Jakku? The planet is orbiting like a giant black hole or something, so time passes a lot slower.
Is that how the good
I
guy
hope
from
they
Alderaan
make
is,
that-
like still okay after all these years? Still an old man after 30 years.
So it's like Interstellar meets Star Wars.
Oh, that's great. No double linen. So I thought it was also very neat having Luke Skywalker right at the end, no dialogue at all. He doesn't say a single thing in the movie.
Right.
I thought that was really cool. I'm glad they went that route. My biggest fear was when Rey got there that, he was going to say something.
Right, like welcome.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to black.
You have come,
Yeah, no, I think they did it.
You said something about this earlier, Deku. You were kind of weirded out by the weird helicopter flyover. At the end, it didn't feel very Star Wars-y.
That's my first impression when I first saw it a couple of weeks ago. I thought, well, that's not Star Wars. But that's just something. But I'm fine with it now, thinking about it a couple of weeks later. It's Star Wars now because they always do new things. I think before, I know we don't talk about the prequels, before Attack of the Clones, they didn't also do zoom cuts in Star Wars, but they did that in Attack of the Clones, and you'll notice they did that again in this movie when the Falcon's being chased and it's flying into one of the Star Destroyers. The camera zooms in really quickly.
I kind of like the effect.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that as long as it's not overused.
Correct. So I'm just saying, they do introduce new camera moves. So when I said it felt like it was off the helicopter shot, I guess it was just because it's new and I'd never seen it before.
Deku objects to new things.
Right. I'm very set in
That's
my
why he
ways.
didn't like A New Hope.
Although, I mean, I'm thinking about it, like, the plot points of this movie is like A New Hope, but A New Hope, it was triumphal, like the throne room, or... This one
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
completely different. It's a lot sadder. It ended more like Empire than it
Yes.
did
Right.
yeah,
I was.
A New Hope.
Yeah, it's kind of a combination of the two. Yeah.
One of these times, I actually would like to discuss the series as a whole because, as much as Empire Strikes Back is my favorite,
Yeah.
A New Hope just all around comes off as fantastic, top of the line, just basic storytelling.
Right. It's very...
Yeah, we were talking about this earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
Oh, I have another question for you guys. Do you think Rey was too powerful in this movie? Did it bug
It
you?
seemed very fast that she was getting her powers.
That she overpowered Kylo Ren by stealing the lightsaber and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because she had no training, and he obviously had some.
Right. And for a while, she forgot about the Force, and she was just fighting him until he reminded her, like, oh yeah, you should be trying to use the Force.
But isn't that like this? I was thinking that sort of mirrors the scene with Luke in the
Luke in
X-wing.
the trench. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Obi-Wan, because obviously they can't have Force ghosts in this movie for some reason. There has to be a reason why, but we don't know yet.
Well, because Alec Guinness is dead.
Well, they were actually. Here's another thing I heard is they were going to bring back Hayden Christensen to play Anakin. It's ghosts. So apparently he will talk to Luke on his good version, and then he'll talk to Kylo Ren on his bad version, his Darth Vader version.
That would
Yeah,
be too weird.
that got cut, so I don't know if they're going to. Yeah.
Probably wise.
It would have to be like Hayden Christian on the good version and James Earl Jones on the bad version.
I would assume so. Yes. Yeah.
But I don't know. That seems weird to have an evil and a good Force ghost of the same person.
Yeah,
Even
that would
using
be...
the phrase Force ghost sounds really.
Yeah. Well, and especially because he was reformed at the end. Tell your sister you were right.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know how they're gonna do that if they decide to bring it back in the next movie, but maybe they shouldn't do it. But yeah, anyways, like in the original movie, or A New Hope, they had Obi-Wan show up to remind Luke to use the Force to blow up the Death Star. So in this one, they can't. I mean, that's the whole thing I was thinking is they can't have a Obi-Wan character show up because it wouldn't make any sense because he hasn't met anyone like Obi-Wan, and Han Solo obviously isn't a Jedi.
Right,
So,
he doesn't have that mentor that died.
So he can't show up and say use the Force. So they would have to have Kylo mention it. I think it's kind of contrived like that, but that's probably why they put that in.
I thought it kind of worked for me, actually. Like, she was just doing the same sort of thing that Finn did, which is just like, let me take the sword and try and beat the guy down for a while. And then she got so wrapped up in beating the guy that she just forgot all about, like, how she was able to do that in the first place.
And the thing that I liked about it, it kind of was feeling a lot like in Return of the Jedi when Luke was starting to give in to his anger and hatred and just wailing on Vader. And then it took him a moment to realize, oh, wait a minute, what am I doing?
I don't know. Do you think she would have taken him out if
the
earthquake hadn't happened? I don't really know.
No, I don't necessarily mean that. I'm just saying it was like the reminder.
Oh.
You're starting to do this thing. You're not focusing on what it actually means. And then something reminds you.
Yeah, I think she would have killed him and in anger too, which would have turned her to the dark side if you follow the movie logic.
Would it have? I'm still not entirely convinced because you see, like, Jedi kill Sith all the time in the earlier movies, and they didn't become evil or anything. It was like, that guy needs to die. Let me take him out.
Right.
He's the bad guy. I don't really necessarily see the problem with.
Oh, okay.
People are going to hate me for saying this, but still, I feel like killing a bad guy doesn't make you evil necessarily.
No. It's the spirit in which you kill them. If you're doing it because you, there's a total difference there. Also, that's like 3 good linens in a row. For those of you playing along at home, it was 99, 97, and now 96.
Next one's 95?
I don't know.
Stay tuned tomorrow.
Yeah, hopefully I'll get that 98. But yeah, overall, it was, I'm not looking for a perfect movie, and I'm not necessarily looking to recreate everything exact. And I think they did. They met my expectations. They entertained me. They told a story that I had fun with.
Yeah, I think that's kind of my final analysis, and they kind of threw in new things to think about, which is always good for repeat business because you want to hook people in
Right.
for the next movie. Now that they're making it much faster than 3 years, every 3 years.
And the other thing I'd say, kind of overall, is that it kind of just looked beautiful.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Except for Smeagol, it was
Smeagol.
looked. I mean, like especially for me, that scene when they're on. I don't remember what the planet's called, but anyways, and the First Order attacks kind of out of the blue in order to come after the droid again. And
Maz's castle planet.
Maz's planet, yeah. Like the TIE fighters are coming in. You see like the silhouettes of the TIE fighters coming in against the sun, and kind of like you said, it's not a very Star Warsy sort of like camera shot.
Yeah, it almost feels like a Vietnam War camera shot.
But it felt real.
Yeah.
Like, it felt like an actual camera could have taken that shot, and I really liked that.
Yeah.
That brings to another point too, because a lot of the space battles and stuff are really what I like. And the TIE Fighter and X-Wing battles, it was good, again, to have like solid feeling ships, and you knew who the good guys were and who the bad guys were.
Right.
In the prequels, it's like they just overloaded you with stuff, and you had no idea who you were rooting for.
Right, and they
I
had
was
like
afraid of that coming into this.
And they had like
with the previous, but it didn't turn
right, and because the prequels were about like the slow turn of the Republic into the Empire, you had like ships that looked like TIE fighters being the good guys and flying along with the X-Wing prototypes, and it was really a mess. Yeah.
The one thing that was a little odd, in the Death Star trench battle scene, when people were dying, even though you didn't know them, you still felt a bigger sense of loss, I felt, at their death.
The
than
pilots?
I got, the pilots,
Yeah,
the random background pilots, than I did this time in this movie.
Well, you didn't see any one guy in this movie like the view in the cockpit where he's going and you see some fire around him and then he goes away. You didn't see that at any point. You never got to see which guys died.
That's true. It was kind of sanitized. You were separated from their deaths.
You just saw ships getting blown up.
Right.
But you don't know who was piloting them. Which reminds me of another part in that where there's a view from inside somebody's cockpit, and you kind of see it, and he's like looking around, and it felt very real, like you were sitting there in the cockpit with him. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I think the cockpit shots were really nicely done, and they were something new that we haven't seen before, because we have the straight-on cockpit shots from the original trilogy, where they're basically in a set and then they're just rocking the cockpits. But this one, they actually have it offside, so you can see the side of the ship and the back of the ship, and then they're doing like all sorts of maneuvers as they're flying, so you actually see the ship turning as they're talking, which is not the same as before, because before it's just a close-up of the pilot, and then you see maybe a black background in the back because they didn't do the blue screen, or they didn't have the technology to like superimpose what they wanted to show. So I really like that effect that they did, is basically have a camera that's like a GoPro that they stuck outside the cockpit shooting in, and then you can see like the rest of the ship and then the backgrounds flying and things flying. I thought that was really neat. Yeah.
What did you think about the fact that the Millennium Falcon was just hidden on not Tatooine for so long and was immediately flyable?
Well, it's apparently Unkar or whatever his name is, Portion's guys' private ship, right? He stole it.
Yeah, he's been working on it. He's familiar with it. I mean, Ray was familiar with it.
Right, but then the problem is Han and Chewie picked up on it like right away because there was, some tracking, they had a way to track it. So what took them so long if he's been working on this and taking it out for a spin and keeping it fully flight?
Well, maybe he hadn't been taking it out for a spin. Maybe just like crank the engines every now and then.
I don't know. That's one of those things where it's just a little too convenient.
Well, yeah, okay. So I don't know why this seems related to me, but we were talking about the I don't even remember what that weapon is called,
Mhm.
but the big stupid weapon that destroys planets.
Star Killer base.
The Death Star.
Oh
Oh,
my gosh, Star Killer Base. What a lame name. Anyways,
well,
I feel like
to be fair,
12-year-old me would have come up with that name.
to be fair,
Let's call it Star Killer Base, guys.
yeah, but to be fair, Death Star is not really that much better.
And it's a reuse of a name from, I think, the original trilogy, because it was supposed to be Luke Star Killer at one point.
Oh, that's true. You're right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I sort of gained somewhat more appreciation for it now. That you say that. But anyways, how is it that everyone is able, from wherever they're sitting, to look up in the sky and see all these planets getting destroyed? Are they like in the same solar system? That can't be.
No,
That was-
and it's a really... They didn't really explain it very
How
well.
the speed of light works in this?
No, well...
Or the
Like-
fact that all
no.
those planets' orbits were just aligned so
Yeah.
they could watch the
Yeah.
trail as it goes to the planet.
So...
Yeah.
I was trying to figure that out too, so I was like looking around for answers. The guy who is in charge of the Star Wars story tweeted out that basically, and this is sounds gonna sound really lame, but he said basically there was some kind of rip in hyperspace that allowed other planets to see what was happening.
No, not
That's
mine.
his explanation. So I don't know why they would say that. I assume they did that. I mean, if you think about it in story logic, they would do that to show other planets that they've done it, kind of like a news broadcast, I suppose. That hey, we just did this, but no, it made no sense. It took me a while to figure out why are they seeing that, but yeah, that's kind of something I hope they explain better in some way in the future. But yeah, it's weird that that's in there. And I think that has to do with J.J. Abrams not really liking space. And one thing I noticed about this,
Not really
I mean-
liking space? Really?
like, he doesn't like distances, like big distances. So I noticed in this movie, like you were talking about, like time seems compressed. Like they as soon as they fly out the Falcon, Han finds them. Like it seems too quick. And the same thing with when they landed on the Rebel base. Immediately, the Starkiller base is about to shoot them. It's like they're like right across the way. Doesn't seem like they're far away. It's just everything is within reach. And I guess that's always been what Star Wars is, because if you think about the original trilogy, they went from the asteroid belt to the Lando system. Or wait, yeah,
Well,
Bespin.
and you even get if the Millennium Falcon has gone into hyperspace, they could be on the other side of the galaxy by now.
Right. So basically, I think it's already established that they can travel big distances in a short time. But I think the original trilogy had fewer places to travel to, so it didn't feel like out of place. But in this one, they're moving from one place to another, so things seems really compressed. And I think that's my other thing that I don't quite like is things feel a little bit compressed. And again, I know they had like a ton of deleted scenes. They said the first cut was closer to 3 hours of the movie. So they
Yikes.
cut
They almost should have just done it.
yeah, so they cut all the Senate stuff out, and there was some stuff adding to, I think, Finn's background. I don't know.
Oh, interesting.
Well,
Yeah.
this might be a problem of just storytelling then, and maybe a bad. I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this. Criticizing J.J. Abrams' decisions, then he probably should have spaced this out and did a different paced movie. I mean, with what we saw there, we probably could have gotten 2 or 3 movies out of it.
Oh, so you're saying he could have done another trilogy like George Lucas was doing originally when he made Star Wars, and he cut into 3 movies because...
Saying he could. Actually, the first Star Wars movies was just Star Wars. It was later he changed it to A New Hope and made
Correct.
the sequels.
Right. Right, so yeah, so that's what I heard is they cut a lot of content out of the movie.
Well, that's interesting. I can't wait to see what is added back.
Yeah, I mean, I assume we'll get to see most of that in the DVD.
Correct.
That'll be
Which I'm
nice.
looking forward to, yeah.
What are these DVDs you speak of?
It's like a Blu-ray, but not as good.
Late 20th century technology, discs, plastic discs.
Plastic?
Oh yeah, I remember laser discs. Well, like watching them in science
In
class
school
middle
because
Yeah.
They thought it was a good investment to buy Laserdisc players.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Well, that was very interesting.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't give my score. I would probably also give it an 8, like the rest of you
Yeah.
guys.
Well, to be fair, as critical as I've been, it would be a mid to high 8.
Yeah, I mean, I think I like it.
Really,
Hmm?
I think I like it too.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Again, the hardest part for me with this, and I don't blame this movie, I blame George Lucas more with the prequels, is I had a lot of fun in my high school years playing the piloting, the space sim games with TIE Fighter and X-Wing.
Mhm.
I enjoyed reading certain novels, and now, because of certain things, none of that can ever happen.
Yeah, I mean,
It's almost
you have
like
to remember that-
I feel like the imaginary world I created for myself at that point. Now it's coming home that could never have actually happened.
Yeah, well, so at the same time, think about this. Like, imagine going back
Mhm.
to those books.
Yes.
Not necessarily like going back to high school, but going back to those books now as like, someone who's seen more, who's read more, who
Who's
has
an
a better
adult.
appreciation for like storytelling and
Mhm.
dialogue and novel writing.
Well, that's why I'm
Might
actually.
not like some of those books very much anymore.
Well, that's why I'm actually
They might
going
have been
back
pretty
through
bad.
That's why I'm going back through the Thrawn ones, because I want to see if it does actually hold up to that. There's others that I knew sucked back then.
Like
Yeah,
a
a
truce.
buddy of mine was reading.
Oh,
some of
I
those
can't talk
and
about
it
that one,
said they're-
Deku, because
The Truce of Zakura? Is that the one you're thinking about?
that one was actually pretty bad, and I hate to say it, because a friend of mine's mother's friend wrote that book.
Oh, really? Yeah, yeah.
Really?
Someone that they knew back in Montana or something
Right,
like
she
that.
lives in Montana. I was just looking at the books today, actually.
Mm.
My books.
But no, I thought that one was pretty.
I mean, to be quite honest, I just remember liking it back then, but I'm reading the plot synopsis right now, and it basically says immediately after the victory at Endor, Leia has to go to this planet because of some reptilian alien invasion, and she has to work with the Empire. I mean, it's like, what?
Yeah, I don't really remember at all. That was the first one.
I don't either.
That was the first book of Star Wars that I read. I borrowed a copy from that friend, and
really?
it did not sit well with me. But then the Thrawn trilogy, and again, I'm rereading it to see if it's because the TIE Fighter series, you end up serving directly under him, Thrawn.
Oh,
Okay.
Cool.
And that was my first experience with that. And he's like, "Oh, how do you know about Grand Admiral Thrawn?" And I'm like, "Well, because of this. Why? Is he someone else that I should know about?" To me,
yeah.
he was
I
just
love
a,
those.
yeah. To me, he was just a character in that game. And then suddenly, like, oh my gosh, this guy is probably one of the coolest characters in Star Wars ever.
Yeah.
So
I'm also wondering if they might pull some more story elements from that trilogy in this one, because I'm looking at the episode 8 casting information. They're gonna cast an Imperial officer played by Benicio del Toro, I think.
Okay. I don't know
Oh,
who
really?
that one is.
Right, so he's gonna play an Imperial officer of some kind. So is he gonna be like a higher up? Because all the First Order stuff people we meet are like super young, so they can't be.
Right.
I noticed that the general that they got was a very interesting choice.
Oh yeah, he's so ragey.
Hux was younger than some of the people that were working for him.
Right, and he's all raged out because apparently he was born after the Empire's collapse, and he thinks it was a disaster that the Empire collapsed. Kind of like Putin thinks that the end of the Cold War. Yeah.
Nice.
So that's why he's like enraged all the time.
I was actually really intrigued with that character, and I hope they develop him very well.
Right. Oh, that's the other thing that's not like a New Hope is they didn't kill off their Tarkin character, because that's kind of like their Tarkin character.
Right.
That's true. When the fleet failed and all of that, I was expecting some bad retribution for him.
Oh, but he's kind of on an even footing, right? With the he's equal to Kylo Ren. They're kind of like jockeying for attention.
Yeah, they're like
Yeah.
two different branches. Yeah, the
Yeah.
same level of like two different branches.
Right.
That stuff is really fascinating to me, the way that they can take that.
Yeah.
Now, back to the books just quickly. The series that I really enjoyed, but I'm expecting I'm not going to enjoy another read through,
Hmm.
is the X-Wing series.
Oh, okay.
Because it was with the piloting of, video game stuff. I also, though, really liked the fact that it finally wasn't Luke, Han, Leia, Chewie saving the universe again.
Right.
It was someone else.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of had to, but
Plus, the leader of it was, Wedge Antilles, who I don't know why I like him. He's such a small character, and yet he's like one of my favorites.
well, because isn't he such a big character in all those X-Wing books and games and stuff?
No, not in the games. You're just you.
But he's like, isn't he in charge of?
Nope. I think in X-Wing,
No?
you have like a bearded, white-haired general that kind of looks like the guy from A New Hope,
Oh, okay.
giving you missions, but you don't have any other pilot names.
But he's like the main character in like Rogue Squadron, right?
He's the leader of Rogue Squadron.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I'm thinking of. I definitely, played Rogue Squadron. I love those games. So, okay, so speaking of Rogue Squadron, I was thinking of this earlier.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
I was gonna say it, but like, so they knew that they needed to destroy the. I can't even talk about how stupid this is. The thermal.
Yeah, the sheet, the
The stupid
plating thing. The cover,
called?
the cover of the shaft.
The flipper. I don't remember what it's called.
The
The whole concept was stupid. Anyways,
the bipolar phase thrust shift
I
regulation.
mean, you just made up a better name.
Which one are you talking about? The game?
no, in the movie.
No. In this movie,
Okay.
in The Force Awakens, the main goal that the X-wings had to come and destroy in order
Oh,
to
the
destroy planet.
thermal something, right? Thermal regulator.
Oscillator. The thermal
Oscillator.
oscillator. That's what
Okay.
it was. Oh, that's so stupid. Anyways, so why didn't they use Y-wings to come in and bomb the heck out of it? Like, why are they just only using X-wings?
That's another problem, or B-wings or something.
Yeah.
Because the B-wing was supposed to replace the Y-wing.
So here's another
was
thing.
it?
Mm-hmm.
How? How does
It was
that
a much
even work?
superior. Well, okay, hold on.
How are you gonna drop a bomb from that thing?
The
Like,
Y-wings
Let
were.
me put on my nerd sound here. Okay. Well, first of all, the
What?
B-wings
What's your
were armed
nerd-
with ion cannons as well as laser cannons.
Right. Okay, that's true.
But no, the B-wing was a bomber.
Right. I mean,
How
the
do
way
you
I.
get a bomb out of like it's like a vertical craft. I don't know. The B-wing is just really weird.
It
I
is.
think even in A New Hope, they showed Y-wings as kind of big lumbering machines, and I think the comparison there is like if you watch those World War II movies,
Mhm.
the Y-wings would be like the huge B-52 bombers,
like a B-
Right.
Yeah.
and then the X-wings would be the escorts, the fighter escorts. That's why they're always
Correct.
flying really fast, moving around.
Correct.
But here's another thing about the
And
Force
that's why
Awakens,
they pilot like a shopping cart, and I hate piloting Y-wings.
and they all get blown up in A New Hope
Why?
because they're slow.
No.
Why?
Never mind.
So, apparently, in this one, they were going to do like a big space battle on top of what was happening, like with big capital ships, I assume.
Mhm.
But that
Like-
also got cut out.
out in the atmosphere, out of
Right.
the atmosphere.
And actually, some people are not happy about that because they said they thought there should be more ship types, and I kind of agree. But I think they could save the capital ships for another movie because I remember watching Empire. I mean, Empire was my first Star Wars, actually, not A New Hope. I didn't see A New Hope until like several years later. So I remember watching Empire. I was like, wow, these ships are amazing. And then the next movie I saw was Return of the Jedi, and I was even more blown away because the scale just keeps going bigger and bigger.
Right.
And then if you go back to A New Hope, the first thing you see in the whole movie is just a Star Destroyer. And of course the Death Star, but you don't see very much. And
But
then
the-
if you upgrade that to Empire, you see the Super Star Destroyer and more Star Destroyers. And then by the time you hit Jedi, you got these like huge fleets. So it makes sense if they don't want to blow their load, I suppose. this early. But
Prematurely.
right, because then people get spoiled, and you may not be able to ratchet up your scale anymore. But
But
I
then
think
do you
yeah.
really need to ratchet up every time?
I think that that's
I
what
know
they
what
probably
you're
want to
saying.
do.
I understand
visually.
what you're saying,
Yeah.
to parallel the first three,
Yeah.
but maybe there's other ways to ratchet it up rather than just size of ships.
That's a good point, and I think that there should be more ships, like
Mm.
more ship types, not just X-wings. But that's a decision they made because I think that's the other thing is like we were saying how the prequels were so confusing
Hmm.
with so many ships. Maybe they just went the other direction too far.
Well, and I think they realized fans wanted to see stuff that was also a bit more familiar.
Yeah.
Right, but they could have the A wings and the B wings. Those are from the original
Yeah.
trilogy.
Yep.
Yeah. Right.
Yep.
So yeah, but
Maybe
that's
introduce a couple skip ray blast boats. Those are fun.
apparently
to fly.
if I'm trying to
No
I
idea
put
what you're
my
talking about.
I put the art book as my wish list, so maybe someone will get it for me.
All right, any one of you out there that wants to buy that for Deku?
No, like in my family.
Christmas was last week.
But anyways, in the art book, apparently there's like W wings and Z wings fighters that they didn't
I'm trying
use.
to picture that. Well, you said Z.
Right,
Well,
Z wings.
Z wings. It doesn't sound right. Z-wings?
actually, I think
W-wings
Z wing
were
sounds
in-
more aggressive than Z wing.
Yeah.
W wings were in Rogue Squadron, right?
Were they?
Pretty sure. Yeah.
I actually could not get into those games.
Oh, I liked them a lot. But
Well,
like,
the
I
pr-
was like, a Nintendo person,
Mhm.
64 and stuff.
Sure. Well, that makes sense. I mean, they were fun, but they were too arcadey for me. I was used to much more micromanaging,
Mm.
and so I wanted to do stuff that the game wouldn't let me do.
Yeah, you're still kind of macro managing because you're kind of telling your fleet what to do, and
I still did that. Cover me,
yeah,
attack my target.
yeah. I mean, I guess you're not managing very much. Macro.
Most of the time, it was just to get them out of the way so that I could go fly in and save the day. Because let's face it, DOS AI was not very good.
Yeah, yeah. Rogue Squadron. I did play them on the N64 too.
Oh man, do you ever play Rogue Squadron 2 where you can, if you play 2 players, then you can go into the Death Star run, one person in an X-wing and one person in the Millennium Falcon.
No, was that on the GameCube or is it?
I think that was on the GameCube version
Okay.
of it. Yeah, which
Yeah.
was really on Rogue Squadron 3.
TIE
That was-
Fighter Alliance had that, and it was a multiplayer game. But if you're just playing, through yourself, it's on the Millennium Falcon.
We're way off topic now.
Well, actually, this brings up topics for future. We can continue with the Star Wars theme. We can have future recordings where we talk about books, future recordings where we talk about other movies, about the video games.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
do
there's
Ben
another
Stiller
movie coming up called Rogue One later this year. Apparently,
I see.
it's a prequel.
I should not say this because I think it might still be my password on a couple accounts.
Yeah, don't say it then.
Definitely shouldn't say it
I
now
think
that
I've
you
already
just
said too much. No, none of my sensitive accounts, but for a long time, my password for most of my online stuff was Rogue One.
Oh, really?
Hmm.
Yeah, the movie is going to be about the Death Star plans, like the gang who steals the Death Star plans from the Empire.
Many Bothans died.
No, the other Death Star.
Oh, the other Death Star. This is before we knew what Bothans were.
Right. See, that's my other thing is we didn't get to see Mon Mothma in this movie, but I guess she would be retired.
She'd probably be dead by now.
Well, she did die, I assume, if the planet got blown up.
Oh, that's terrible! Along with the rest of the Bothans. Because we never saw them either.
No.
Um,
I mean, I liked how you didn't see a bunch of stuff in those original movies.
yeah.
Stuff that they mentioned, but you don't see Dantooine and stuff.
oh, okay. Now, Brian, I know you complained about it.
Gives more universe to the, more realistic feel to the whole thing.
And that's one thing I do have to say to segue into when you see the new Star Wars Cantina that got blown up.
Uh-huh.
even though it just felt like so frame for frame of the original, there was
Yeah.
something that was refreshing about it.
Yeah.
You get to see these different aliens, and they're just going about doing their own thing. It's not like some CG
Yeah.
dinosaur ass walking in front of your camera.
Not yet. Wait for the remake, the special edition.
Special edition.
George Lucas's version.
He buys it back from Disney.
And now suddenly each year they buy it back
See
from
that.
each other, and the next movie is like completely. Oh, this would be hilarious.
Did you guys see the werewolves in that cantina scene? Because I keep
No.
thinking of the original cantina scene with the werewolves.
I used to know what those were called.
I don't know what they're called too, but they just look like
Mm,
werewolves.
Back
to
in
me.
the day, I read that book. I remember it as being a really good book.
I think it was like
all three of those.
Shistavanen or something. Oh, yep. Thank you, Google.
Oh, is that what they're called?
Shistavanen, yes.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, a lot of these. Well, okay, I'm not going to look at a lot of these pictures. Fan art.
Oh, furries?
No comment.
Okay.
I've never heard one.
Yeah, I like it, and the too bad it's not on the soundtrack. The Cantina song that they were playing there.
Oh, that one. Never
The
mind.
other one.
New,
Yeah.
the new cantina.
It's not on the soundtrack.
No, I actually have the soundtrack, and
Well, why would they?
Oh, really?
Why would they
Yeah.
exclude that?
well, I guess they had some kind of big name artist do it. I assume that's why it's
So-
not.
Oh, they don't want to give them rights.
I don't know. Maybe it'll be coming out as a separate single. But yeah, the soundtrack actually. I know we were talking about it earlier.
Gosh. Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Okay, so Disney now owns the rights, right?
To everything, yeah, including Indiana
Okay,
Jones.
so they should redo all of the council scenes in the prequels and replace the ET monsters with like a race of Mickey Mouses.
Oh.
Or we could have whatever planet Duckburg is on.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm liking this.
They should just completely remake the prequels.
the prequels.
Yeah, to include.
All new stories, new characters, new story for Anakin. No symbiotic bacteria.
Anakin was actually turned down by Darkwing Duck.
So that's why he's angry all the time.
He's resentful, and he resents that he's stuck with Obi-Wan when he wanted something a little more flashy.
Oh,
And the Emperor, in order to get his enough funds for power, unlimited power, ends up stealing Scrooge's first dime and raiding his money bin.
I think that's even worse than the prequels.
Oh! Well, I didn't even bring in, when Han Solo has to team up with Chip and Dale and the Rescue Rangers to stop. What was Gummy Bears about? I don't know that I ever watched that one.
Oh, okay.
Couldn't say.
On topic, I don't know if you guys heard about this, but George Lucas got in trouble recently
Hmm.
for saying that he sold Star Wars to white slavers. Yeah,
I
okay,
sent
you
you
sent me
that
the link,
article.
right. And then he
I
apologized for
haven't
it
read it. I'm sorry.
the next day. So
Yeah, he said it was like selling his children into white slavers.
right.
Did he apologize for that line or for all the rest of the stuff?
No, just for that line. He basically said he's. What did he say? Well, I have a.
In that article, he also said that it wasn't about spaceships; it's about family problems, and it's
Yeah.
a soap opera. But the problem I have with that is
Mhm.
this movie was about huge family problems.
Correct. Yeah.
It was. I mean,
Yeah.
Han and Leia, their
And-
situation,
yeah.
their son kills
Yeah.
the father. That's huge family problems.
Right. Oh, did that scene work for you guys? The killing of Han?
Well, I knew it was going to happen.
Oh, yeah, I kind of predicted it, but I knew it was gonna come. Like when as soon as I saw Han step out on that plank, or I don't know what to call it, bridge
Well,
with no
the funny-
railings.
The bridge with no railings.
I commented that during the movie a couple times. Like, in 30 years, have they still not put any railings on these goddamn Star Destroyers?
Brian, you should watch Space Mutiny. The railing contribute to so many deaths.
It's been a while.
Railing kill. What's interesting was I can't tell if he was faking want, wanting to come back and
Yeah.
reform, or if he was
Mhm.
just doing it to completely get rid of all of his good side.
I think the latter.
Oh, I think
Is,
that's definitely what his intention was, but
Yeah.
it you weren't quite sure at the time, and that was what made that scene work.
Right.
Is like
Right.
you can see it coming. You know that's even as he said it.
And
He's
you
talking.
want
You
you
know
actually
that his
want to
intention
believe
was,
you actually want
and
to
you
believe.
want, yeah, you wanted to believe him, and you're clenching your seat the first
Yeah.
time you watch it.
Mhm.
Just don't do it. Don't do it. You
And the
you
movie
know it's
gives you a
coming.
little bit of hope because the music starts really
Yeah.
It
soft.
does. It was really effective.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And
then the scene goes dark.
right.
And then he says,
Oh, that was
right before
sad.
he kills him, he says that thing, and you know it's over. It's like, thank you for whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, crap. You know it's going to happen.
Yeah,
It's over.
that scene worked for
Rip
sure.
in peace, Han.
Rip in peace.
I actually really liked that scene, and that was the scene that I thought, knowing, okay, once it's like, oh yeah, have you faced your father, Han Solo? It's
Yeah.
like, okay, yep, yeah, they're gonna have to fight. Han's gonna die. That's probably gonna be the worst scene in the movie, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
They
It
didn't
was.
fight. That was good that they didn't
They
fight.
didn't, and it
Right.
was really well. I really liked that scene.
Right. Yeah, it's a good scene. It's well done. I think Kylo Ren as a whole, he's a really interesting villain because I'm kind of tired of the pure evil villain that we've had for so long.
Yeah, yeah. It worked really well in A New Hope because it was just very simple storytelling. There were the
Mhm.
good guys, there were the bad guys.
Yeah.
In Empire Strikes Back, you kind of deviate from that. Vader's completely horrible. I mean, you look at what he's doing to try to get his son, and he's
Yeah.
slaughtering everyone, but he still kind of had something.
Right.
And then in Return of the Jedi, he's, basically reformed back.
Reforms. Yeah.
Right. Oh, there's a scene again that was cut, but is in the novelization where
Mhm.
Snoke.
Novelization already?
And there's a Barnes. Oh wait, of the
I didn't read the book, but someone did a
original or
summary
this one?
of this movie.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
They did a summary of all the additions, but one of the things that they added was Snoke was talking to Kylo Ren, and this was a cut scene, I think, or some. It wasn't. It didn't get made into the final movie, where Snoke basically says Vader's weakness was his sentimentality. Had he not been weak at that moment, oh, did he say the line about him seeing evil coming? No, that was Maz's line, right? But I think Snoke also says something similar to Maz about being around for a long time and watching the Empire rise and fall. So that's why a lot of people think he is Darth Plagueis or whatever his name is that Palpatine talks about in Revenge of the Sith. But he tells he tells Kylo Ren that basically he watched Vader's weakness I guess in Return of the Jedi is he was sentimental for his son. Had he not have that weakness, then the Empire would not have fallen. So that's kind of, I guess, a little bit of context as to why Kylo is who he is. He wants to correct what he thinks was Vader's weakness, which is being
And
sentimental.
he did a good job of that by killing his father
Right.
in cold blood, like just. Oof, that was harsh.
Yeah.
But he still has a mom. He still has a mom out there.
Leia,
I like-
It's not over for him yet.
It was pretty interesting to see her reaction when it cut to her when the moment Han died.
It was like Obi-Wan reaction in A New Hope.
Right, exactly. The thousands of voices or the millions of voices cried out in terror. Suddenly silenced.
And we're suddenly silenced.
I thought that was See, those are the ways that they should have paralleled Episode 4.
Mm-hmm.
More often.
More often.
As opposed to just doing similar plots and locations.
Yeah.
Although to be honest, the desert planet, it was like, come on, this is just Tatooine. But the cantina, I really enjoyed.
Yeah,
There
it's
was
a nice
something
one.
about
And the
seeing.
whole planet was cool too.
Yeah, that was one of those places where it's like, oh, come on, now the New Order is destroying it. I want to spend time there. I want to see more about this place.
Yeah. Well, that was part of what made it so sad that it was destroyed.
Yeah.
That it seemed like a really cool
Well,
old
and-
ancient place,
Well,
then
and
it just
this is
got
one of those
destroyed.
pro-con
like
things.
ISIS destroying artifacts and stuff.
Exactly.
But it's also kind of like Hoth, right? You got to see it for a bit in Empire, and then it's gone because it got destroyed.
Yeah. I live in Hoth, so I don't want to go there.
Yeah, tell me about it.
But no, with that place, I mean, that's one of the pros and cons things that I wanted to mention. That he did such a good job establishing that as a place that seems to have a really good history, really fascinating side stuff going on. I want to spend a lot of time there, and now you're taking that from me, you son of a gun.
I guess they might go back there. Like,
No, I
as
know.
a
No,
movie.
that's what I mean. It's effective and it's infuriating.
When the camera pans up, there's a bunch of flags. One of the big flags they show is Boba Fett's emblem. So I don't know
really?
if Boba Fett's
Really?
been there. Yeah, so like I think it's some kind
Boba
of
Fett?
neutral,
Boba Fett, where?
like it's maybe
Sorry.
some kind of meeting ground for like scoundrels. So that's why Han would be there or would know that place,
Right.
like a neutral place where you can meet and do business. But so like basically everyone from every faction would have representation. That's why there's like First Order spies there and Resistance spies in the same place.
Oh, kind of a neutral ground where.
Yeah.
Why did they bring in their droid in there and just like alert everyone? Hey, we have what we know the first
Yeah,
order is after.
that-
They should have left that on the ship. Yeah.
Because that's how that droid rolls.
But I assume if they were looking for,
Hey.
yeah, I got it.
That
I
on
got
purpose.
But if like Snoke knows that the droid is with Han Solo, and Maz turns around and he shouts out his name, it probably would have done the same thing. Anyways,
Wait, what was the alien's name?
Maz,
No, Snoke?
Snoke.
Oh, Snoke. Okay.
Like,
It's like
I mean,
snake, but
yeah,
not
snake.
quite.
it
Is
it
that
means
why she
pike's
never...
pikefish in some European language. That's why
Okay.
people were thinking it was Jar Jar that's Darth Plagueis. You know the Jar Jar theory too.
Yes.
So that's what Jar Jar looks like after like many years, many decades of becoming more.
No,
mindful.
it's Jar Jar's mother trying to correct not having her son. Never mind.
I guess it's still
know
possible
what
that
that
he is Jar Jar. Who knows? Maybe it is revealed that he is Jar Jar.
I would be okay with that.
I don't know.
It would change all context of the prequels.
Then they wouldn't have to go back and remake the prequels, I guess.
Yeah.
There is a part of me, though, that I think the problem that I have with changing a lot of this stuff. There's a problem I have with a lot of movies that decide to reboot or retcon or do all this stuff and just ignore things that other people have done. I don't know why that bothers me so much.
Do you
I don't know why
think?
that bothers you so much either?
Do you think this is a reboot and a retcon? Or
No, I
not?
don't. I'm just was referring. I'm
What?
sorry.
I mean, in a way, because all the other old like canon.
Well, I don't
books are
believe.
gone.
Yeah, but I don't believe this movie is the cause of that. I think George Lucas is.
Well, George Lucas is the cause of a lot of things, I guess.
But at the same time, I never took the EU as seriously as I guess some of the other fans, because even when I was reading the books and playing the games, I kind of knew that there were kind of stories people make, and they're allowed to do it because at that time George said he wasn't going to do any more sequels. So that
Yeah, but then
space
at
is
that
free.
time you have to kind of.
Yeah.
And I don't expect, I'm trying to have it both ways, I think, because I don't expect the next filmmaker to try to take in every
Yeah.
single one of those movies. Or, sorry, every single one of those books. There's just
Right.
too much, and a
Yeah.
lot of it's crap, and not all of it makes sense together.
Correct.
So I do understand that, but at the same time, at least the good ones that fans really like.
But how do you determine what's good and what's not good? I think that
You
by
read them.
Deku, you will know when you're at calm and at peace. But yeah, what Selka or what Brian
Yeah.
said, you read them.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's been so many years since I read all those that I couldn't judge them now. I don't know if they're any good. It's still.
I am on chapter 4 or 5 now of the first Thrawn trilogy, and so far it's holding up to my expectations. Well, and either way, whatever happens with that, and what I've said with this movie has at least revived my enjoyment of that, and I have to give it credit for that.
Yeah, and I have a feeling they might take more plot points from that in the future. It just seems like that's where they're going, right?
If they can, that's pretty amazing. The prequels made me want to have nothing to do with these books again.
Yeah, I haven't even thought about any of those books since the prequels.
Yeah.
That's true.
But now it's like, I want to get back into that universe. And so I think he did a really good job, J.J. Abrams, in reestablishing what was at least steering the course back to what it should be.
Right.
Even if he's not fully there, you still have to kind of bridge that gap.
Right. And here's the thing that I find really strange, and maybe not so strange. So a coworker of mine who's older, a lot older than me, retirement age, mentioned that her grandson went to see The Force Awakens and he was disappointed. But he's like super young, like maybe 15.
Well,
so
what does he know then?
he would have grown up with the prequels. So it seems like a lot of the people who grew up with the prequels are less enthusiastic. Not necessarily don't hate The Force Awakens. They're just not as enthusiastic as the rest
What
of
was
us.
what was his impression of the prequels?
I didn't get to talk to the kid, but because she knew I like Star Wars and
Well,
like
I think you should grill her for information.
in the torture sheet. Like I mentioned that because we had our Christmas party, right? And then I had to go to the premiere like on the same night. So like most of the people there knew that I had to leave a little bit early to make the showtime. So yeah, that's how she knew that I was interested. So she kind of just mentioned, "Oh, how's your Christmas?" Blah blah blah. And by the way, my grandson went to see the movie too, and he wasn't as or he said he was disappointed with it. So I don't know why, but I think one of the things I hear a lot about is, one, they don't like the muted soundtrack. I guess there's like no dual defeats, and they don't like the lightsabers as much because obviously there's no choreographed fight.
Well,
like in the prequels.
let's run with that for a moment. Okay, so let's say you've never seen any Star Wars movie, and this was your first one.
Right.
What would you think of it? If you had none of the emotional...
Hard to say.
Right.
Yeah, hard to
I feel
say.
like you'd like it, probably.
Yeah, that's my feeling too.
Why?
It's fun.
Well, that's my thought too, but is it fun?
Here's the thing with the prequels. Like, I don't hate the prequels, like maybe you do, Tim. Like, because I like the politics of the Republic, and like
No,
I like
I like
to see.
I like the politics of it. I think that it was just done in such a bad way that it ruins all the goodness.
There's like here's the thing with the prequels, right? Like I'll be going along, and it's like, oh, this scene is good. Oh, they're doing this. That's interesting. And I'm thinking to myself, they could do this a little bit differently, but I'm okay. They can do that. And then there are scenes that are like, why?
I'm sorry.
Like when Vader like goes, no. It came at such an emotional point in the movie. Everything leading up to that was awesome, except for the baby thingy. The babies when they were getting born. That robot thingy. The robot that's doing the voice. Like, why?
Yeah, it's like you're giving birth to the miracle of life here.
Yeah.
Let's have some cold metal machine.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't need to have that. Like, stuff like that just drives me insane. Like, this is a perfectly good scene. There's nothing wrong with the acting, even with the effects. It's just the random...
I'm not faulting a lot of the acting. I might make fun of the things they say.
Or even directing. But... The directing might have been fine, too, but, like, George's decision to have a droid there do that just destroys it. Like, why? Like, why would you do that? It's stuff like that that drives me insane with the prequels, is... There's potential, and then he wrecks it.
So, how did Leia remember her mother so well?
Well, that's a plot hole now. I assume it's a Force thing. I mean, you can always explain things away with the Force. All the time.
No, the way Leia speaks about it, it's
that's
like...
not how the Force
Oh, this is
Tell
so
that to
much-
George.
George.
Bacteria George. I'm gonna call him that from now on.
Well, it's a very fascinating discussion.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's gone on long enough.
All
Right?
right. Well, I think we
It's
should have a
pretty
few more
long,
of
yeah.
these. If anyone that is listening to or still listening to us, put up with us for this long.
Poor soul.
I pity you. You should get some real friends.
Right.
And at the same time, if you want us to discuss any other things on Star Wars, feel free to comment on Dexter's profile below.
Below.
And
I don't know. You're putting this on YouTube, right?
Yes.
Put it in the comments. We'll read it. I guarantee we'll read it because it'll probably be the only comment we get.
Probably. All right. Thanks very much for listening, everyone.
Yeah.
Bye.
Good night.
Take care.